Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, hope, inspiration, and entertainment. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is Books, Blogs, and Poetry. We are welcoming author. He is from Canada, super excited, Todd Zummack, with us today. Before we bring him out, we're going to welcome the star of our show, DIANN, FLOYD. BOEHM, come on out, DIANN. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Jacalyn, and good afternoon and everything else to everyone in the world.
It's so nice to have you with us today, and we are celebrating authors around the world. I love this program. I'm an author, you're an author, and it's really nice to have this community where people are supportive instead of backstabbing one another. It's about lifting each other up. So, DIANN, tell us about your latest creation. You always have another masterpiece that you're sharing with us. What is it that you are able to talk about now in terms of your projects?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn, very much. So my children's book is starting to do extremely well. Boomer, the Curious Bunny, and I have two more in the making. But in November, on the 15th, and you can pre-order now, is my young adult historical fiction that I'm super excited about. It's the second in the series, and it's called Ruby Takes Chicago, and it's exciting. It's a fun girl book.
I love it, DIANN. It's amazing. My new book is out. I just got it last night. Of course, there was no one here to celebrate with, but it is exciting. It is a special experience. So let's get right to it and bring out our guest, Todd Zummack. Welcome to the show. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
We are thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. And where in Canada are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Regina, Saskatchewan.
All right. And we are thrilled to have you. You are one of Mickey Mickelson's clients. Hello, Mickey. We love you. Thank you for sending us another fabulous person. So you are the author of The Brand of Brotherhood and Amazing Grace. And we're going to dive into what each of these is about and what our audience needs to know. When did you realize you had the writing bug and it was more than just doodling or just taking some notes?
I think shortly after high school, I started planning out the beginnings of Amazing Grace. It was an idea that I'd had. It was something that I thought I wanted to maybe give a try. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that Amazing Grace is the final product after about 20 years of 20 years of work. It started, as I said, as an idea, and you started writing, and then life happens, and you put it away, you put it aside, and you work at your job and raising your family, and then eventually you decide you're going to get right back to it, and when you get back to it, you finally get it finished.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's really important what you just said, because some people think that writing is very easy to do. I should say writing and getting published, right? It's not something that's easy for most of us, and it's really painstaking work. We become emotionally attached to our characters. So I would love for you to share just a little bit more. You've also written short stories, but when you wrote this first book that really took a while for you to get out there, Amazing Grace. What did you want the reader to take away from reading it? What do you want them to take away from it?
When I write strictly for entertainment. That's all I write for. I don't have any political opinions that get put into my writing or any world views, anything like that. I write simply to tell a compelling story, one that you'll enjoy. If you've got a few hours to sit at the end of the night and unwind from your day and you want to follow a good story, that's what I'm writing for. I may not understand all the nuances in the world of writing just yet, but I think I can tell a compelling story, and that's what I have my confidence in. That's what I write for. I write just for the entertainment purpose, and I'm hoping that when they're done reading it, they can take it away and go, "That was a good book. I'm glad I spent my time reading it. I enjoyed the story."
Excellent. Thank you so much, TD. DIANN?
You are absolutely right. Writing for entertainment is exciting, and it helps bring a little joy into people's lives. And I love what you said at the end, that you want people to close the book and go, "Gosh, that was really worth my time." And that tells me you are on point as a good, healthy, solid writer.
Thank you. Thanks. Hopefully everyone else feels that way too.
I'm sure they will.
So, TD, what prompted you to write another book? Because sometimes people write one and they go, you know what, that's it. Or else they're serial writer like DIANN and I are.
Growing up, my two favorite authors that I read the most were Agatha Christie and Louis L'Amour. So when I started writing, I wanted to write a mystery or thriller first. I want to say in line with Agatha Christie, but it's really not. She's the queen of the cozy mystery, and mine's not exactly a cozy mystery. It's more the thriller type. But I wanted to write something along those lines for her, and then I wanted to write a western in homage to Louis L'Amour, and I wanted to see if I could write one as well. So I wrote the western after I finished that. Now I got to figure out where I want to go from here.
Well, Agatha Christie was always one of my favorites as well. Just absolutely classic. And I understand that you belong to a writers guild. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm a member of the Saskatchewan Writers Guild as well. Yes.
Can you share with our audience while we have you on Spotlight? What do you think the value is that you get from that? What's the value that you give?
I think that the value of belonging to something like a Writers Guild, it gives you that community. You're in a group of like-minded people who all want to accomplish the same sort of goals. They want to have their writing out there. They want people to understand it. They want people to read it, and they want people to enjoy it as well. As far as what I give, when it comes to sharing advice or experiences, everybody's got a little bit to give, where they can say, "This is what's happened to me, and this is what I like," or "This is how it's worked out." Everyone's got a different writing journey. Some of them, I myself don't yet have a book deal where someone is paying me to write. Others have that, so they can offer the advice as to how they got it. Someone like myself can offer advice as to how the supported self-publishing area works and how you can get from there.
Excellent points. Boy, my ears perked up when you said getting paid to write. What is that like? I
I
don't know
know.
about that one.
That's goal number 2. Goal number 1 was to get published. Goal number 2 is to get someone to pay me to be published.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You just hit the nail on the head, is about having those goals. I've never even thought about that as a goal, but I'm going to now. So thanks for sharing that.
You have to put it out in the universe.
Yeah, you gotta manifest it.
Yes,
exactly.
That's right.
So how do you think your life would change when that happens? How will it change?
Basic. It would be nice to not have to worry about where the mortgage is coming from every month.
Yeah.
To have the time to write because someone is paying you to do it, so you don't have to worry about working the 9 to 5 and making sure everybody else has food on the table and things like that. It'd be a little nicer doing that. So to get that first deal, it would help ease the pressure a little bit in regards to that and give you a little more time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking, though, it adds a different layer of pressure because instead of writing just for entertainment purposes, now you're being scrutinized on what it is that you're writing, and is that what they want?
Yeah, you have that option, or that, I guess, that area where you've got to hit deadlines now. They're going to want certain books at certain times. You're going to have to work those pages, and you are, in your when you're in the supported self-publishing area, you don't have too many eyes looking at it to tell you what you should and shouldn't put in the book, right? It's you and maybe your editor and your publisher a little bit. But when you get that book deal, then you got to opinion
perform.
as to how they want to do it, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you gotta learn how to take criticism.
Yeah, but I think that that's one of the exciting things about growing as an author. And based on what you stated, how your life would change, I could tell you're just such an incredibly kind person because you're not putting you first. And so I think when this happens for you, and I'm going to manifest that it will, that
Thank you.
it's going to be an easy breezy for you because you wanted it and you're willing to learn. And from what I understand, that you when it does happen, that you look at the deadlines, but people are still really nice because they wanted what you wrote to begin with, so they're going to go with you. And I think just help lift it up and give you tips, I would think, get your thoughts on it, on what'll even make it stronger. So I think it'd be a fun collaboration with the editor.
I think it would be interesting. Like I said earlier, I'm not fully enveloped in the nuances of the writing profession yet. So somebody who's done it before and has a couple of opinions, I'm more than willing to listen to see how it's going to work and how it would work better for them. It'd be nice to have that in there, just to see how it rolls and go from there. Every time you write, you think your idea is the best idea you have. But somebody else may have something where it works a little better for you, right? So right. I mean, everybody who writes has a little bit of an ego where they think that they've got a great story that somebody wants to hear, and somebody else may have a way to tweak it for you so that everybody does want to hear it.
I love that. So everybody who does want to hear, I love that.
I do too. And you're going to be reading for us, which we're really excited about. And we're going to take a look at your website. But one of the challenges I've found in this journey as an author is the marketing piece of it. The marketing piece is like an octopus. It has like 80 arms, I feel like. How has your journey been when it comes to marketing, TD?
It's a challenge. I intentionally, for my entire adult life, kept my circle really small. And now that I'm trying to get my information out there, get my books out there for people to read, it's kind of a detriment that I kept that circle small because I don't have all those people that I can push it with and go from there. When my first book was published, a lot of the marketing fell on me, and it's a short circle. So Amazing Grace, while it's my baby, probably hasn't done as well as I would have liked for it to do. With the second one, with the Brand of Brotherhood, my publisher for that one happens to have a few more contacts, such as Mickey Mickelson there, who has managed to set up a few more podcasts and interviews such as this for me. So it's getting out a little nicer that way. So it's out there still. I mean, I'm not Stephen King by any stretch yet. So just trying to get it out there and get going is what you're trying to do.
And I think just to highlight what you said for people who are out there who want to get their books, their work, their short stories, it does take work to do the marketing, right? You're here today, you just show up, you have to prepare, you're going to be reading. And that's something that, maybe that's not something that you're used to, but it's something that you're going to be embracing, right? You're going to be loving doing this on a regular basis. So what's your experience been so far you said you had this small circle and now you have to put yourself out there on a regular basis?
Yeah, it gets a little tough. If you're a writer who's more of an introvert, and that's what got you into writing in the beginning, is that you wanted to put your thoughts and ideas down on paper, and it meant you didn't have to you didn't have to hang out with other people, then it's going to be a little tougher for you to get out there and do things like this and go to book fairs and get yourself at your table and introduce yourself to people and do your reading in front of everybody and go from there. and it can be a hard thing to do for a lot of people in that, you're sharing your inner thoughts, right? And it's a little tough to do. I've got a little bit more of a background where I stand in front of a classroom and talk to people for a while and things like that. So it's not as rough for me when it comes to personal appearances and that, but it's tough to get those personal appearances to begin with. You gotta scour the internet looking for book fairs that you can go to and try and contact with other authors who have been to some and say, when's the next one? How can I get there? And when you don't have that book deal with those available funds, you got to find the funds in order to go to those book fairs and make sure you can get there and get all that done. So it's a tough part. The marketing and the promotion is tough. It's almost, I think, as far as ranking in order of toughness goes, getting the book deal is the hardest one. Getting published is tough. And then the marketing is the next thing on there. Writing the book eventually becomes the easy part.
That is so true.
So true.
So true. I call it the beast.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's tough. That marketing promotion is hard, especially if you do have a small circle. It's tough to try and get the contacts to get out there.
But you have a great person to help you, so I know it's all going to work out.
Great. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, Mickey's been great so far. Like I said, he's got a lot of interviews and podcast books, so he's done a great job so far.
Yeah, that was the best thing that ever happened to me was this one person from Abundantly Social put me in that direction. So you're going to do great. And if you have the personality, Dr. Jacalyn and TJ, if you have that personality where, you're happy with your little circle and you're not trying to become a movie star, it's really different because you're a lot younger, TD, but when I was growing up, you're not supposed to brag about yourself. If you're good, people will promote you. And this whole social media is all about bragging about yourself. And it really took me a while to overcome that. Did you have that problem?
Yeah, it takes a little, like I said, it takes a little bit different personality to do that. I'm not as young as you think I am. I just look that way. So yeah, I was brought up in the same way. You keep yourself humble and you let other people discover your greatness for you. You don't tell them how great you are. And now the way the world is, you have to tell everybody how great you are. If you weren't telling people how great you are, TikTok wouldn't exist. So, you need to get out there and tell people how great you are, which is a little tough. It's a different mindset to get into, and you try and push it. And when you're out there promoting yourself, you're wondering why people don't see what you see in your books. How come you can't see how great this book is when I know how great it is? So it gets a little tough sometimes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, TD. We'd love to have you start reading from Amazing Grace, if you would.
Sure, Amazing Grace, you bet. As I said, it was my first book. It's a mystery thriller. It's got its star detective and his antagonist there. I think I'll just start right at chapter 1 and just give you a good base to see where you want to go from there. All right, so Brock sat on the dock, half asleep in the mid-morning hours, enjoying the tranquility and letting the sun warm his body. It was the summer of 1986, the hottest ever recorded for the region, and catching the heat before it was in full bloom felt good. His mind was floating in a totally relaxed state of semi-consciousness. He loved vacations. Suddenly, his peace was disturbed by a woman running out of the trees and onto the beach about 100 yards away. She was yelling for someone. Brock tried to turn his long, athletic body in his lawn chair to hear what she was yelling about and to get a better look. She was running in his direction, her footsteps pounding on the dock as she approached him. "Excuse me, sir. Have you seen a little boy this morning?" Sorry, I apologize.
Suspense.
"Yes, he has brown hair and eyes and is about this tall," she said, lifting her hand just above her waist, her eyes pleading for a positive response. No, I'm afraid I haven't," he responded while standing up to meet her. At 6'2", he guessed he stood 8 to 9 inches taller than her. She had shoulder-length black hair that cascaded down around a very pretty face, which at that moment was wrought with anxiety and fear. "Where did you last see him?" "At the campsite this morning. He said he wanted to go exploring. I told him not to go too far because breakfast would be ready soon. He ran out into the woods, and that was the last time I saw him. I can't find him anywhere, and Daniel never misses breakfast. Please help me." "About what time was that?" "He got up early, excited, about 7 o'clock." The woman was almost crying now and trying very hard to stay composed. "He's only 10 years old," she blurted out, panic shaking her voice. Brock looked at his watch. 10:30. 3.5 hours was no reason to get overly anxious. He ran his hand over his square chin and chiseled jawline while he thought for a moment. "Try and stay calm. There's lots of great places for a young boy to play around here. He probably lost track of time," he stated, trying to reassure her. He wasn't kidding. For adults, Lackluster Cove lived up to its name. It was a sleepy little beach community with nothing exciting going on, although for kids it provided plenty to keep them amused. There were woods to explore, Landslide Hill, the old mining operation near Landslide, and the lagoon where you could peer into the water and literally see hundreds of fish that you could try to nab. Fishing there was forbidden, but there were more than a few young men over the years that were known to hook one or two of them. Brock had spent his summers here as a kid. His parents owned a cottage here, and he could remember missing a meal or two himself while out wandering around. He enjoyed his summers here, and now, as an adult, he brought his family here for vacations and stayed in the cottage his parents left him when they passed away. He looked down at the woman standing in front of him. "Come on," he said. "I know my way around pretty well. Let's see if we can find Daniel." He put his hand on her shoulder and they walked off the dock. "Let's go get my son, Jake. He may be able to help us. Then we'll start back at your campsite. Maybe he's already back there." "Thank you," she said. "Thank you very much, Mr. Manor," he said. "Mr. Manor, but people call me Brock." "Nice to meet you, Brock. I'm Penny James." "Likewise, Mrs. James. Now let's go find your son." They walked towards Brock's cottage. "So, Mrs. James, where are you from?" "I'm from Riverside. How about you?" "And it's Ms. James, but call me Penny." "My wife and I live in Riverside as well. We have a cottage out here that she and my son stay at during the summer, and I come out for my vacation." "Cottage? You live here? You're not camping? How nice. So what do you and your wife do in Riverside?" "Becky is a teacher, which works out well, and I'm a police officer, a detective really, Detective Sergeant Brock Manor." "A detective? Well, isn't that my good luck?" She tried to manage a little smile. "And what do you do?" "I've done a bit of everything. I was a teacher as well for a bit. I've been a nurse. Now I do bookkeeping out of my house so I can spend more time with Danny." "That's quite the experience you've had." Brock wanted to keep her talking, keep her distracted. "And here we are." As they entered the cottage, they were greeted by a young boy who was stretched out on a couch off to their left, watching television. "Hey, Dad, you should have seen it. This guy just flipped his powerboat over 3 times before it hit the water. It was so cool." "Hey, Jake, where's your mom?" "Right here," said Rebecca Manor as she came out of the kitchen. Her long blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and the smile on her face revealed her classic beauty. "Jake, sit up. We have company." "Actually, Jake, go get dressed. Miss James and I need your help. Honey, this is Penny James. Penny, my wife, Rebecca." "Nice to meet you, Penny. Jake, your father asked you to go get dressed." "Aw, Mom, it's the wacky world of sports." "Now, Jake." As Jake left the room to put on some clothes, Rebecca asked, "What's Jake going to help you with?" "Penny's son, Danny, went off to play this morning, and she can't find him right now. I need Jake to show us where all the kids like to play around these days. It's been a while since I've roamed all the nooks and crannies." Brock pulled open a drawer of a side table and pulled out a pack of gum. It was his vice, his quirk. When it was time to do some thinking or when the situation got a little more stressful, he found that chewing gum kept him centered, focused. "Oh, I'm sorry, Penny. I know how you must feel, but if anyone can help, it's my 2 guys. Between them, they must know every inch of this place by now." "Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for. How old is Jake?" "He's 10, she said, "and more than a handful of trouble, let me tell you." "Oh, The same age as my Danny, and I agree with your trouble conclusion. They were all chuckling as Jake came down the hall towards them. What's up? He asked. Son, this is Ms. James, said Brock. Nice to meet you, Mrs. James, said Jake. You got any kids? Yes, Jake, I do. My son, Danny, is out playing right now, and your father and I thought you might be able to help me find him. Where do you and your friends usually hang out, Jake? Asked Brock. I don't know, kind of all over the place. And don't say hang out. It sounds funny when old guys say it, Jake teased his dad. So that's part of the start anyway to how it goes. Thank you.
I loved it. I love the way. Sorry, Diane, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I really got a good chuckle at about the hangout. Sounds funny when old people say it.
I like the way you described everything and the fact that you took such detail in the comments that you were, it's actually how people would communicate, and you captured all of it. And I felt so at ease, and I felt really drawn in. Sometimes people write very formally, especially about conversation, and you wrote it exactly how somebody would say it. So I really admire that.
Thank you. Yeah, my writing style is a totally conversational style. I write the way I speak, so it's an easy flow. If you're not into $25 vocabulary words, then you don't have to worry about it in my book. It all flows really nice and easy. It's easy for you to read.
And I really related to the whole chewing gum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was imagining when he brought her home and introduced to the wife, that the wife she was like, wow, okay, instead of like, who is this and what's this person doing here? You know what I mean? Which could have been a reaction. So I really like the reaction that you decided to go with.
I think when you read through the book, you'll find that Rebecca's a pretty easygoing lady. She understands the life she has married to a police officer, and especially one who's as you'll find out later through the book, he's a pretty driven police officer. So she's used to being married to him and what all that entails, especially if he's on a case.
Excellent. Thank you. So I know you might need a moment, maybe want to get a drink or something before you read The Brand of Brotherhood.
Sure, if you don't mind, I'll just take one quick sip and then we can go from there.
Yep. Just take them off screen for a moment. So, Diane, I'm really loving this. I love when authors read their work.
I know, it's very exciting. I was really getting into it because I could picture the characters quite well.
Yeah, I can too. All right, TD, you're up again with Brand of Brotherhood.
All right, so this is The Brand of Brotherhood. It's my new one. It's my Western. For those of you who don't like Westerns, the good news is this is more of a family drama set in the West. So it's a lot easier for you to wrap your head around it that way.
You want to show the book cover? You want to show?
Absolutely,
so we see it?
sure.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go. All right, so that's The Brand of Brotherhood right there. And as I said, it's a nice Western. It's a good family drama set in the West for you. All right, here we go. The 1860s had not been good to the Warner family. William Warner had gone off to fight for the Union during the Civil War. He had left behind a wife and 2 young sons, one 4 and one 2, as well as a prosperous little grocery business in Boston. Once the war had ended, he had found himself somewhat disenchanted with the country and the government as an institution in general. He did what a great number of citizens were doing. He packed up his family and headed west in 1865 for the wide open space of the western frontier. He was a bit of a gentleman, a dandy, some of the tougher men had called him, and he had very little experience to employ towards survival in the harsh West. It had been a struggle every step of the way. The West proved wilder than the stories he had heard, but he wasn't a quitter, and slowly he gathered the skills needed for him and his family to build a life. They settled in a town called Ash Hollow in the Nebraska Territory and proceeded to try to farm to build their legacy. It wasn't the prosperous start he had hoped for. Drought had plagued the land for the last 2 seasons. The ground had been baked hard by hours of hot sunshine, and what water there was had been dammed up and diverted to the land of the large cattle ranchers in the area. Outlaws roamed free, thieving and killing with little regard for what law enforcement there was, and Indian war parties crisscrossed the area frequently. During this time, William had learned how to shoot and how to ride, as well as how to read, sign, and track a little. As his boys grew, by then Colt was 10 and Brick was 8, he tried to pass on every new skill he learned to them. Both had learned quickly. His wife Margaret had been a rock through it all, never once complaining, doing her best to make the most of a bad situation and be the good wife and mother she was expected to be. He loved her dearly for it. While other women were parked in a sitting room drinking tea and wasting the day away, his Margaret was out there working the field with him every day. Her fair complexion had become darkened by endless days in the sun, her long, curly red hair looking like a tongue of flame extending off a lighted match. She had lost weight, they all had, but she still kept her girlish figure. She had been a beautiful woman back home, the toast of Boston, with countless suitors, and even now, under these harshest of conditions, she remained stunning. They were truly partners, and William thanked the Lord every day for bringing her into his life. They struggled together as a family to build the life they wanted, even as the drought wore on for another season, and the lawlessness became worse. All of them being together was what mattered. William continued to try to farm and loved his wife and children that much harder every day. He was doing this for them, trying to give them a future. But there were obstacles at every turn. What little livestock they'd had died under the harsh conditions, and with no crops to harvest, they were forced to butcher their last cow in order to eat over the winter. No crops meant no money, and no livestock meant nothing to sell. They were broke. He had taken a loan from the bank in the previous spring, and now had no way to pay it back. They were threatening to take his farm. Life was beating him down at every turn. And then came the final blow, the last obstacle, one he could not overcome, could not live with. In the spring of 1869, his beloved Margaret, mother to his children and love of his life, became ill from cholera and passed away. It was the 13th of March, the darkest day of William's life. Colt remembered the day too. He was 12 and Brick was 10. He remembered how hard it was to put the shovel into the frozen ground to dig his mother's grave. He remembered the awful sound of the cold steel hitting the frigid soil. They had only been able to chip away a shallow plot, and were then forced to pile rocks on top to cover the body and protect it from animals. It had been hard work, made even more painstaking by doing it while his eyes were filled with tears. Colt and Brick watched their father's struggles and helped out where they could, but it was never enough. They were witness to his slow descent from a once proud and confident man to someone who had been drummed into submission by relentless strife and turmoil. His mother had been the rock of the family, always there to prop up his dad and never allowing her boys to give up hope. When she became ill, he watched his father sink even faster, spending most nights looking for hope at the bottom of a bottle. And when she passed, Colt watched the light in his father's eyes dim and his posture decline. He looked like he was a balloon and someone had let the air out. Colt was worried. What was going to happen to them? Who would look after the family? He took the role upon himself. He would look after Brick during the day, make the meals, teach him to read the way his mother had taught him, and then at night he would take care of his father and make sure he made it to bed safely. His father still wore a gun belt, although Colt didn't know why since he'd never used a gun anymore. Colt took the gun out each night and carefully cleaned it before he went to bed. After all, you never knew when it might be needed. He was growing up fast, but then most boys did in the West. It was a necessity if you wanted to survive. Life was tough and getting tougher. It was another drought-filled summer, working the field all day under the glare of the hot sun, trying to push the plow through the hard ground, trying to plant seeds in soil with the composition of 3-day-old oatmeal, and then praying for just a little bit of rain, any moisture at all, was enough to break a man's spirit and his body. The three of them worked the farm the best they could all season, but there were no animals left to put to work, and what little crop did grow wasn't enough to even try and sell. A herd of bison roamed lazily past the farm one day, and William managed to hunt a little one. He showed the boys how to butcher the animal, and they were able to eat some that night, make jerky with most of it, and still have some left for a few more meals later on. They weren't living high on the hog, but they were living. Then came the second day that Colt would never forget. It was in late August, and his father burst through the door of the cabin and announced that the three of them were moving. "Pack your bags, lads. We are heading west." Colt couldn't believe what he had heard. "What? Where are we going, Pa?" "Sacramento, Colt, my boy." "Where's that?" "It's in California, right next to the ocean." "What's California?" asked Brick, wide-eyed at the news. "California is a place where it's warm all the time. No more harsh winter winds and waist-deep snow for us. It's booming, boys. They're finding gold out there. There's ships to work on. There's rich ranch land. There's an honest job for any man that wants one." William was twitching with so much excitement that Colt thought he was going to start dancing. "How are we going to get there, Pa?" "The Union Pacific has finished their railroad. We're going to catch a train, and it will take us right into Sacramento." "We get to ride a train?" screamed Brick. "We sure do, son." William picked him up and twirled him around in the air. "Things are going to get better now, boys. They surely will." Colt spoke up. "But we ain't got no money, Pa. How are we going to ride the train?" "You leave that to your old dad, son. I'll get us on that train." It was such exciting news that Colt wanted to believe it was true. He hadn't seen his father this lively in a long time. The light had come back in his eyes, and he almost looked a little taller. California sounded good. He had been young when his family left Boston, and he could barely remember the ocean. No more winter sounded great as well. In fact, it all sounded too good to be true. But for one night, Colt allowed himself to be excited, and he fell asleep with thoughts of California in his dreams. Maybe they could have a better life after all. Maybe his father would turn things around. He wished his mom was there. There you go. That's chapter 1.
Wow, I wanted you to keep going. That was fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I was right there with you. So how does it feel when you're reading your book out loud?
Honestly, it's a little awkward. It's a little, like I said, it's a different mindset you need. It's weird to have your thoughts out there for everybody to hear. So it's a little weird, but it's a good feeling. It's nice to have it down there, and it's nice that people are going to get a chance to hear it and perhaps get piqued like you were and decide they want to go and take a look at it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You did a fantastic job. So thank you so much for that. I want to make sure before the program's over, we get to your website, which is your name, TD Zummack, TDZUMMACK. Let's scroll up to the top. And where would you like us to go here on your site?
Well, if you take a look, obviously just scrolling down, you're going to come to some videos. That's a podcast that I've done there. And then there's some of the book trailers out there just to give you a little more tease into the books. You scroll down a little further there, you can see Amazing Grace is up there. There's a link to my short stories. The Brand of Brotherhood is there as well. And they've all got some buttons there where you can click on them to get to their Amazon page or Barnes & Noble, wherever you're looking. In the case of the Brand of Brotherhood, it's also available on Endless Sky Books, and there's a link there to hit that as well. If you guys aren't, go ahead.
I love that you did that. I don't think I've ever seen this before where someone has actually put each country, because I know I've heard we have team members from all over the world, and they'll say, "Oh, I can't buy this book or that book because they don't have it in my country." Here it is. You've laid it out so it's easy for people to find. Well done.
Yeah, it's right there. Just click on the link. Thank you. Yeah, you click on the link and it'll take you right to the Amazon page for that country, and you should be good to go. If you scroll back up to the top there for me for a second, if you wouldn't mind. In your top right corner there, you're going to see, I believe it's the about section. Click on there. So there's my bio and my smiling face for you. And if you scroll down just a little bit there, you'll see that there's me. I met Gene Simmons from KISS, and I gifted him a copy of Amazing Grace. So Mr. Gene Simmons has a copy of Amazing Grace there as well. So hopefully he's enjoying it.
Where were you?
I was right here in Regina. He was here. He was here promoting his, believe it or not, his new line of vodka. he's got he's got a line of vodka called Moneybag Vodka, and he was there promoting his line. And I managed to get in line and gift him a copy of the book while he was there.
Did you get the vodka while you were there too?
I did get the vodka. Yes, it's actually sitting up on one of my shelves right now.
That's pretty cool. I love it. Okay. And so do you have any events that are coming up that you want to share with our audience?
There's one coming up this weekend. It's our fan expo, so it's kind of like our version of Comic-Con from San Diego. So the Regina Fan Expo is happening this weekend, and I'll be there with my table set up. So we're there. There's a possible book fair again in November. I may be part of that one as well. That one will be taking place in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So I may end up in Saskatoon at the end of November. So as far as events, those are the only two that I have on the horizon right now.
Fantastic. Well, we have your contact information up here. We have your website, your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and email. And we encourage people to reach out to you to purchase your books. And I say to people all the time, don't be shy. Don't be sitting there watching and thinking, wow, I want to do this. And then you don't do anything. Take action. Reach out to TD and go over to his website and purchase his books. Obviously, wherever you are in the world, you can get your copy. So thanks again for being here. We hope to see you on the Corner Bookstore or any of our other shows that would be of interest to you to help promote your work.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me. It was a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye
Thanks,
for now, TD.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. DIANN, I just love him. He's so easy to speak with, and he's so humble, and he's got, you can tell he just has a great sense of compassion for humanity, and he's a good man.
Absolutely. And the last book, oh my gosh, I was so into it. I really didn't want it to end.
I know.
I hope he does an audio so I can use it when I'm doing all my driving across the country.
Well, DIANN, we have to close out. And before we do, I just want to give a little plug to one of our friends. Our dear friend, Zane Carruth, has made inroads on her own. I absolutely love this. She's an award-winning children's book author. She has her own television show here on our platform, which is Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living. And so now she's taken her branding to a whole new level. I want to just share this with all the authors out there. Neiman Marcus is carrying Books to Bed and World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, pajamas and book set. How cool is that?
Oh, that's so exciting for Zane. Well done. And how fun. I'm absolutely going to have to buy some for my grandchild.
It's fantastic. So it looks like that it's at the Neiman Marcus in Houston. It's Saturday, October the 14th from 11 to 1. Go out there, meet Zane, and pick up her books and these pajamas. It's a great time of year, especially with the holidays coming. Why not?
Why not? Absolutely. And if you do not live in Houston, I'm sure you can order it online.
I'm sure you'll be able to as well. DIANN, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Oh, everybody feel free to contact me. I love it. And ask me any kind of question you would like. You can reach me the simplest way is through my website, because all my social media contacts are there. So it's DIANN FLOYD BOEHM.com, DiANNFloydBang.com. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you, DIANN. All right. It was great seeing you. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the United Kingdom News and Culture.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Bye for now. Thank you. And just a selfish plug for myself. My newest book, Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening, Solutions for Deeper Connections, Better Relationships, and More Authentic Conversations. Why did I write this? Because for years when I was in corporate, I never felt like I was being listened to or that people were hearing anything I had to say. And of course, with this platform and having produced or hosted over 5,000 shows so far, I'm listening to people all day. And so at our platform, that's what we stand for, elevated listening. DIANN is an elevated listener. Zane is an elevated listener. That's what we do here. We give people a safe space to share their story. So what's different about this book? This book has 2 quizzes in it, a pre-assessment and then a final assessment to determine how well you are listening. Everyone thinks they're a super fantastic listener. Why are there so many broken relationships? Why are there so many divorces? Why are there so many instances where people are fighting and there's hatred? Because we're not listening. This book will teach you everything that you need to learn to have better relationships, to find that inner peace and that connection. It's also filled with testimonials and case studies. So please go over to Amazon and pick up your copy. All right, we're going to leave on a high note as always with DIANN FLOYD BOEHM and her testimonials. Let's take a look and we'll be right back with Talking Heads and our expert presenter, Caroline Heward.
Hello, I'm children's author DIANN FLOYD BOEHM, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages. And who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.